Hello, welcome to today's Thursday weekly Q&A for Discover Your Career. Today I'm going to talk about the role of social media in your career. So why you want to have a social media presence, the importance of it, and how to sort of go about starting it up. So last week's session was a great one. How to get started when you didn't know how to get started. Hi, Dylan. It was amazing to hear about everyone's sort of one thing or some of the challenges that they have had in terms of getting started. Now, I really appreciated everyone reaching out to me with all that. And so I did wanted to touch base on that in my article this week about getting started writing your resume. Because sometimes that too, even just getting started on that with all the conflicting information that is out there can feel impossible. So I wrote this week about some easy tips and exercises that you can do that not only gets you the content you need for an amazing resume, but also kind of acts as a self-confidence boost. Because let's face it, when you're feeling disheartened and anxious and stressed out and all of that, your self-worth goes down. It makes it harder to sell yourself. So by going through this exercise and figuring out like all the amazing things you did, how you made a difference, things you were proud of, really helps build that confidence back up. I also included a link in there, and I'll include it here in the notes, is access to my resume checklist. So once you have that content and you're starting to put it into a resume template, that you have the checklist, so you're making sure you're getting everything that you should have in there and knowing about some of the optionals to see if it makes sense for you. So I have that for you below. But let's get to it. So the role social media has in your career. So what is that role? And the role relates to your career development and the job search. So a lot of people think about social media as it relates to the job search, but it also relates to if you are in a job and you want to get a better one, or you want that promotion, or you want to be kept in mind for those great projects that maybe come down the pipeline, or you just want to build up a reputation as someone who's really good at your job. Social media will help you out with that. Obviously, social media helps out with networking. It's probably the number one thing. LinkedIn is the number one business networking tool out there. So it helps you keep in touch with your current network, reconnect with anyone who may have fallen by the wayside that you haven't talked to in a long time. Helps you grow your network. So it helps by meeting and engaging with new individuals that could assist you in your career or in your job search. Applicant tracking systems and recruiters use it. I know I've talked about this before. There was a scary stat that I posted yesterday about how 70% of recruiters have rejected candidates due to their online reputation. And yet, that may seem like really sucky, but it took me a long time actually to think back to my recruiting days. I know a lot of my peers started using Facebook as a way to research candidates, especially if they had like 10 and they really needed to narrow it down to 5 or 7 to interview. That's when they would go to Facebook. It's not like they would do that for everyone and help use that. I was really hesitant about starting that off. Really did not enjoy the thought of using someone's personal life. But honestly, in the last 2 to 3 years, it did become a part of what I would do. And it usually wouldn't eliminate them from me talking with them, but I would usually research them online by Googling them, by checking out their Facebook and Instagram and Twitter before I interviewed them so that I could get a sense of who they were already. So I highly recommend you Google yourself and you check out what comes up when you do Google yourself to make sure there's nothing sort of that would scare a potential employer off. But that is a reality. And applicant tracking systems always compare your resume to your LinkedIn profile. Most recruiters compare your resume to your LinkedIn profile, and then sometimes they take it beyond that. So they really just are doing it to check you out, to see if there's anything that they should be concerned about. Recruiters also use social media to find talent. So even if you are currently working, if you are engaged in a job search, this is agency recruiters and corporate recruiters. They post on Facebook groups. They share or tweet about jobs that they posted, and especially on LinkedIn. They scour LinkedIn. I know for new talent. So I know for myself personally, when I had a new job to find talent for one of my clients, I was on LinkedIn using different search terms to find people. And then I would reach out like a cold email saying, oh, I have this job you may be interested in. So if you're in a career, what I hear a lot is you're in a career, why even bother? Like, you don't really want recruiters reaching out to you. But the thing is it gives you awareness and knowledge of the job market, so you are aware of what's out there. It also makes sure that you are keeping on top of the necessary skills for if you ever do leave, that all the positions that they're reaching out to you within your fields, maybe they are now starting to use a new technology that you maybe weren't aware of or you haven't touched on. So maybe at that point you want to see if you can do that outside, or maybe you consider one of these new job opportunities. Also in terms of salary, it is sad, but in this day and age, the best way to get a big bump of salary is not to stay in your job. It is to get a new one that pays you more. So, and that same goes for opportunities to work on some of those complicated projects and complex projects that you really want. Sometimes it does take you leaving to get that. So sad, but true. So keeping your options open and being open to recruiters reaching out to you is a great way to have more control over your career. Okay. And then another thing is social media is an amazing way to show you off. So to show off your skills, your knowledge, your experience, showcase what it is you bring to your table, your differentiating factor. It's also an easy way to sort of sell yourself without feeling like icky and awkward, because you're sort of just throwing it out there. You're not actually having to deliver that information or that sort of bragginess directly to one person. So sometimes it feels a little bit easier to do that. So how to go about doing that, how to sort of create a social media strategy to help you get ahead in your career. So the first thing is come up with your career goals and plan. So what is it you want? What do you want in a year? What do you want in 3 years? What do you want in 5 years? However long you want to plan. And what is the purpose social media will play in that plan? Coming up with your personal brand. So who is the you that you want to represent online? What is your sort of tagline? What is your, if you were to say it in like a one single line, what it is you bring to your table, your differentiating factor, your superpower, what would that be? So that you can build upon that foundation. One thing to do is to pick your social media platforms, because there are so many. It's like you would drive yourself crazy if you did all of them. So pick the ones that mean the most to you and figure out how you'll use each one. So for example, Facebook. So Facebook is not where you're going to reach out to people on their Facebook profile, like their personal page. However, it's a great place to join groups, like the career networking group that I started, which is why I started it. There's other sort of employment groups out there. There's a little bit more in Toronto. There are some ones that maybe are a little bit more specific to like an industry. So you could use Facebook as a way to meet individuals in a Facebook group setting. Twitter could be used to share and retweet and engage with top leaders. So top leaders, like you may follow Obama or Oprah, or a common one is like the Dalai Lama. His name is escaping me. The guy, the Virgin, Richard Branson. That's it. So people who may tweet some interesting information that then you can retweet. And it could be in line with your personal brand. So if you're very much into like a simplification of everything, it might be the minimalist, or it could be Tim Ferriss if efficient work like productivity is something that you are passionate about. So Twitter is great for that. And then LinkedIn is amazing for connecting with people within your like locale. So like within Toronto, within the GTA, or within New York City or LA, or even smaller little areas as well. So it's a great place to do that. And I've like really noticed in the past 2 years the uptick in people who use LinkedIn, and especially the uptick in people who use LinkedIn who are very happily employed. So they're using LinkedIn strategically as a way to stand out. So they are posting content regularly. They're posting live videos like this. I've seen a big increase in this on LinkedIn. Motivational quotes, sharing articles, writing articles. And it's purely as a way so that they become seen as a thought leader or a subject matter expert, as any sort of expert within their field, so that when it comes time for promotion or for them to seek out new opportunities, people already think of them as this incredible individual that they would be lucky to have on their team. So it's laying the groundwork for 3 to 5 years out. That's what a lot of these people are doing. They're not thinking about tomorrow. They're thinking about down the road. And by you hopping on for 5 to 10 minutes over a lunch break, or on a coffee break in the afternoon, or on your commute home if you're taking transit, and just liking and sharing or writing out a status thing, it's a great way to start the conversation around you. It's a great way for you to start building that online reputation. So you're not rejected, but you're looked at in an even more favorable light. Okay, and engaging with some of those key individuals. So figuring out who it is, even if you're happily employed, everyone usually has those 1 or 2 companies that they really want to work at. So reaching out and following them on Twitter, or reaching out and connecting with them on LinkedIn, and starting to engage, starting to build the relationship in a very slow, organic way, where it's I kind of liken it to, like, in your neighborhood, or like at school and university, especially, it seemed you would always see the same people, and you never necessarily were friends, but eventually you saw each other enough where you started saying hi. And then maybe you saw each other enough where it goes to, hi, how are you? And then maybe you like bump into each other somewhere outside of that, and you kind of forget that they're not your friend, and you start talking to them. I don't know. Am I the only one this happened to? Because there's just that sense of familiarity from seeing each other all the time. The same thing can happen on LinkedIn. The same thing can happen on Twitter and on Facebook. That sort of feeling of a friendship can be forged simply by interacting and engaging on these social media platforms. So if you have a few key individuals where you slowly sort of start this out, knowing that hopefully in a few years it could pan out, or even a year could pan out. It's the long game, yes. But if you want to get ahead in your career, if you want to get that great job or that dream career or whatever it is that your goal is, planting the seeds is what networking is all about. and social media is key for that. So I do have some concerns and some things that for you to keep in mind as you're engaging. So the first thing, before you post, so I want you to ask yourself, if you're currently working, what is your company's social media policy? Because it has to be in line with that. Do not try and sully the reputation of where you're working. You could get fired for that, and it would hold up in court because it has many, many a time. So make sure you know that. For your LinkedIn, one way to keep in mind, to sort of keep in line so you're not arousing any suspicion, is if they have sort of a template they would like you to follow that template, and while you still engage, okay? Make sure that everything that the social media platforms that you aren't really using for your social media strategy, that they are clean and highly privatized so that nothing from there can get used. The other question is, think about, what if my boss saw this? What would they think? Would they think it's offside? And to counteract that, if you are heavily engaging with people and your boss comes to you like, what's going on here? Are you looking for a new job? Are you not happy? Why are you engaging with these people? You just talk about how you're trying to build up your credibility. It'll make it easier for you to do your job if you are seen as someone who knows what they're doing, okay, and who can get things done, or as that sort of thought leader. So that is sort of that line if your boss is concerned. But think about that when you are posting. And then also think, is this in line with my career goals? Is this in line with my personal brand? Okay, so I want you to keep those things in mind when you are posting and before you post to the social media platforms that you're looking at. Well, I think that is everything that I wanted to cover. LinkedIn groups, unfortunately, engagement seems to be really poor. So in terms of where you're going to use your work, I think they're working on that to try and improve that. Facebook had a problem like this a few years ago, where Facebook groups they weren't really going the way that Facebook wanted them to be used, and where people weren't happy with them, and they did a lot of changing on that. So Facebook groups have definitely popped back up. So a great way to sort of slowly get to know people. But LinkedIn groups, unfortunately, the engagement hasn't gotten there yet. So may not be worth the time unless you see something that's incredible. That would really make sense. And maybe that one particular group has more engagement. You just don't want to be putting something out there and it's a black hole. It's a waste of your time. But in a nutshell, social media and your online reputation is key, especially in the world that we live in today, in terms of networking, in terms of having your credibility showcased, and gaining more control over your career. I hope that helps. If you want to ask any questions that you want me to answer next week, put them down here or reach out, let me know. If you want to chat about how to sell yourself on your LinkedIn profile, reach out, let me know. I will link to a few social media articles that I've written to sort of help guide you on your way. And I hope to see you all next week. Bye.